My name's Evan Miller, 37, an engineer who believed stability was the foundation of love. For 6 years, I built a life with my wife Lena, one small plan at a time. We weren't perfect, but we were steady, or so I thought. It ended on an ordinary Wednesday night over cold takeout. No dramatic setting, no thunder in the background, just sesame noodles and a flickering kitchen light. She set down her chopsticks and said like she was announcing a weekend plan, "I think we should pause our marriage." At first I thought she was joking. Pause. She nodded, calm and deliberate. "Just for 3 weeks. While I'm in Tokyo, I think we both need some space to figure things out." Space. I repeated it slowly. The word people use when they want freedom without consequences. I looked at her, trying to find some hint of emotion. Figure out what exactly? She finally met my eyes, almost irritated that I was asking for details. Us? Whether we're still happy? Are you? I asked. "I don't know," she said quietly. "That's why I need the time." She spoke as if this was a reasonable business proposal. 3 weeks apart, no expectations, no pressure, just clarity. I knew what she was really offering, a free pass. So I said nothing for a moment, watching the woman I'd shared my life with turn into a stranger across the table. Then I asked, "So you want to pause our marriage while you're in another country?" "Exactly," she said, relieved that I seemed to understand. I should have argued, demanded explanations, maybe begged like she expected. But I'd learned something about manipulation. The person pulling the strings always prepares for resistance. What they never prepare for is agreement. "Okay," I said simply. She blinked. "Okay. If that's what you need, Lena, okay." I picked up my fork and went back to my food. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. She kept studying me, waiting for me to crack. "You're okay with this? You're an adult," I said. "You know what you want. Your flight's Saturday morning, right?" She nodded slowly, her confidence faltering. "Right." "Then have a great trip," I said, as if we were talking about a business conference. For the next 3 days, she circled back to the topic over and over, mentioning how long 3 weeks felt, watching my face for jealousy, testing if I'd break. I didn't. Friday night, she packed her suitcase while I watched a game in the living room. Twice, she appeared at the doorway, waiting for me to say something sentimental. Both times, I nodded, said, "Need any help?" and turned back to the TV. Saturday morning came. Her Uber was at 6. I got up early, made coffee, poured some into her travel mug, and set it by the door. She stood there with her luggage, biting her lip. "So, I guess this is it." "Safe flight," I said. "Text me when you land." She hesitated. "Are you sure you're okay with this?" I smiled, not warm, not cold, just neutral. "You wanted a pause. I'm respecting that." Her hand trembled slightly as she took the mug. She nodded and walked out. When the door closed, I exhaled longer and deeper than I'd realized I could. She thought I'd spend those 3 weeks waiting, checking my phone, proving how devoted I was. But she had no idea what freedom feels like when you've been quietly suffocating. I opened my phone and started a new note. Things to do while the marriage is on pause. Figure out if I even want to press play again. The house didn't feel empty. It felt honest. I turned up some old rock songs she couldn't stand and left dishes in the sink without guilt. I ordered pizza at 10 in the morning just because I could. For once, the silence didn't feel awkward. It felt peaceful. By Sunday afternoon, I had clarity of my own, just not the kind she had planned. I called my old friend Mason, someone I hadn't seen since our wedding because Lena said he was a bad influence. He picked up on the second ring. Well, look who remembers old friends. "Hey, man," I said, laughing a little. "Got a weird one for you. Lena wants to pause our marriage." He burst out laughing. She actually used the word pause. "Verbatim." "And you said what?" I said, "Okay." Mason went quiet, then said, "She's testing the waters while keeping you as backup. You know that, right?" "I do," I said. "So what's next?" "I'm going to use the time I told him to see what life feels like without constant damage control." Mason whistled softly. "Good. About time." That night, I opened a drawer I hadn't touched in years. Inside were old brochures from when I'd wanted to take woodworking or photography classes, dreams I'd shelved because she said we couldn't afford hobbies. Funny how she could afford spa trips, though. I put the brochures aside and grabbed a legal pad instead. I listed every account bill and asset I could think of. Not because I was planning revenge, because for once I wanted to know what was mine. It wasn't anger. It was preparation. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from Tokyo. Landed. Time difference is brutal. Miss you. 6 months ago, those words would have made my chest ache. Now they felt like checking a box. I typed, glad you made it safe. That was it. No emoji, no question. Just respect and boundaries. The typing dots disappeared, appeared again. Then nothing. I put the phone face down and smiled faintly. She wanted space. I was finally giving it. That night I slept through until morning. No tension, no anxious waiting for a door to open, no worry about what mood I'd wake up to. When sunlight hit the blinds, I brewed real coffee, the dark roast she hated, and actually tasted it. It struck me how long it had been since I did anything purely because I wanted to. That afternoon I wrote a second line in my note. Stop living like a guest in my own house. I wasn't sure where this new calm would lead, but it felt right. By Monday, I made a small but decisive move. I took a personal day from work and booked an appointment with Richard Caldwell, a divorce attorney my friend Mason recommended. Not to file, not yet, just to learn. If she was pressing pause to test what freedom felt like, I was going to spend these 3 weeks finding out what self-respect felt like. That morning before heading downtown, I looked around the house. For the first time in years, it actually looked like mine, not because of the furniture, but because of the peace in it. I sent one last text before leaving. Not to her, to Mason. Dinner tonight, no deep talks, just burgers. He replied instantly, copy that. Fries, beer, and zero drama. I grinned. She wanted a pause, but what she'd really done was press play on a version of me I'd forgotten existed. When Lena's plane left the ground, so did the weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. For 6 years, I had been holding my breath, living under her definitions of what healthy and balanced meant. Now, with one decision, the air was finally different, sharper, cleaner. Sunday night passed quietly. No passive-aggressive sighs, no lectures about communication, just me, my couch, and a freedom that didn't need permission. Monday morning, I woke up early, made eggs, and actually ate them hot. Then I headed downtown to meet Richard Caldwell, the divorce attorney my friend Mason had recommended. Not because I was sure, but because I needed information. Caldwell's office was one of those old downtown buildings, wood paneling, framed law degrees, a smell of coffee and leather. He looked like the kind of man who'd seen 100 endings before breakfast. I told him everything, the pause, the Tokyo trip, the sudden talk about space and clarity. He listened quietly, scribbling notes on a yellow pad. When I finished, he leaned back and asked, Evan, do you think she's coming back ready to fix this marriage? I shook my head slowly. Honestly, I think she's coming back expecting to find me broken, grateful she came back at all. He nodded like he'd heard that 1,000 times. This happens more often than you'd believe. The spouse who asks for space isn't looking for clarity. They're looking for permission. Permission. To do whatever they want without being labeled the bad guy. They want to say we were on a break. It's a safety net. That tracked. Lena had chosen her words carefully. Pause, clarity, space. All of them sounded wise. None of them meant anything. What would you do if you were me? I asked. He folded his hands. I'd use these 3 weeks wisely. Get your documents in order, property finances, everything. If she comes back and you two reconcile, fine, you've lost nothing. But if she comes back expecting you to accept whatever she did overseas, you'll be ready instead of blindsided. I nodded. It made sense. It wasn't about revenge. It was about self-respect. When I left his office, I had a folder full of notes and a strange feeling in my chest, not fear, but relief. That afternoon, I went to the gym. Not the luxury one Lena had chosen with eucalyptus towels and smoothie bars, but the old-school place I used to love, metal plates, chalk dust, and people who didn't care how they looked in mirrors. Every rep, every drop of sweat felt like reclaiming something I'd lost, not my body, but my agency. That night, my phone buzzed. A message from Lena. Lena settled into the hotel. Time difference is rough. Miss you. 6 months ago, that text would have sent me spiraling over analyzing punctuation tone timing. Now I just stared at it for a moment before replying. Me glad you made it safe. Get some rest. Polite, respectful, emotionally neutral. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. I could almost feel her frustration from across the ocean. She wanted me anxious, waiting, performing affection to prove my devotion. Instead, she got boundaries. Tuesday morning, I opened my laptop and checked our joint finances. I wasn't snooping, I was understanding. Our money had always been shared, but not equally. Her account was hers, my account was ours. I made spreadsheets notes, organized passwords, things she'd always dismissed as paranoid. For once, it felt good to be prepared. Thursday evening, a video call notification flashed across my screen. Lena calling. I let it ring twice before answering. She appeared hairstyled, makeup-perfect Tokyo skyline glowing behind her. "Hey," she said. "Haven't heard much from you lately." "Been busy," I replied. "With what?" "Life." She smiled stiffly. "How's everything at home?" "Quiet." Her lips pressed together. "I've been thinking about us," she said. "I guess I expected you to be more upset." "Upset?" I asked calmly. "You wanted space. I'm giving you space." She frowned. "You're being weird, distant." "I'm respecting your boundaries, Lena," I said evenly. "That's what you asked for." Her expression hardened. "I'm starting to wonder if you even care about this marriage." There, it was the trap. If I said I cared, I'd become the desperate husband. If I said I didn't, I'd be the villain. "I care about being in a marriage where both people actually want to be there," I said. "Do you?" She hesitated. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." "Then figure it out," I said. "You've got 2.5 weeks left." The call ended shortly after. She looked more confused than when we started. Friday night, Mason came over with burgers and beer. He studied me for a second and said, "You look different, man." "Different how?" "Relaxed. Like you're not waiting for a storm." I laughed. No walking on eggshells, I guess. He raised his bottle. "So what's the plan?" "Wait for her to come back." I think she wanted permission to live however she wanted while keeping me as an option, I said. "But here's the thing, I'm an option too, and I might decide to move on." Mason grinned. "That's the best thing you've ever said." We clinked bottles. For the first time in years, the silence between words wasn't heavy. The first week passed and something unexpected happened. I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of what I thought we were, but not her. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt real. The air was clean. My thoughts were quiet. By Saturday morning, Lena had been gone 7 days, and I realized she'd given me a gift without meaning to space to remember who I was before her approval defined me. I sat on the back porch with a beer and the folder Caldwell gave me, flipping through the papers. Legal terms, financial statements, nothing romantic about it, but there was something grounding in knowing I wasn't powerless anymore. Then I wrote a note to myself at the bottom of a blank page. If she comes back expecting the same version of me, she won't find him. It wasn't anger that fueled me anymore. It was clarity. Because when someone asks for a pause, what they're really saying is, "I want to see if life feels better without you." And sometimes the answer surprises them. By Sunday night, I realized mine had already arrived. Life did feel better, not louder, not wilder, just peaceful. And that peace was addictive. I looked at my phone sitting silently on the counter. No messages, no calls. For once, that silence wasn't loneliness. It was liberation. I smiled, took a sip of my drink, and whispered to myself, "Let's see what week 2 brings." Week 2 began with a surprise. Not from me, those were over, but from her. Monday morning, I woke up to 5 unread messages from Lena. Each one was cheerful in that forced, sugary way that always meant something else. "Had the best sushi last night, rooftop dinner overlooking Tokyo, wish you could see it. Met some amazing people at the conference." She wasn't sharing. She was performing. Every message was a subtle test. "Look at me living my best life." "Are you jealous yet?" I didn't take the bait. I sent back a single thumbs-up emoji. 10 minutes later, another text came. "That's your response." I typed, "Sounds nice. Enjoy yourself." And that was it. 6 hours of silence followed. Then finally, "What have you been up to?" I could have lied, told her I missed her, or pretended to be lonely, but I'd promised myself no more pretending. "Hit the gym this morning. Lunch with Mason. Pretty standard day." Her reply came instantly. "Mason." "Since when are you hanging out with him again?" I almost laughed. "Since you're not here to tell me he's a bad influence." I shouldn't have sent that. Not because it wasn't true, but because it revealed something. I was finally seeing her patterns clearly. She didn't reply the rest of the night. Tuesday, I decided to stop waiting for texts. I signed up for a woodworking class at the community center, something I'd wanted to do for years. Lena had always shut it down. We can't afford hobbies right now, she used to say, while booking her third spa weekend that month. That night, I stood in a dusty workshop surrounded by strangers and the smell of pine. For 2 hours, I sanded a rough plank into something that almost resembled a cutting board. By the end of class, my hands were sore, but my head was quiet. It felt good to build something that didn't require anyone's approval. Wednesday night, I got home late from class. 3 missed calls, 2 voicemails. Voicemail 1. Hey, just checking in. Call me back when you get this. Voicemail 2. It's been 3 hours, Evan. Where are you? Call me. There it was again, the contradiction. She wanted space, but also control over how I used it. I texted instead of calling. Sorry, was at class. Everything okay? Seconds later. What class? Woodworking. Started this week. Woodworking. Since when? Since I had free time. The typing dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. 5 times. Then finally. We need to talk tomorrow. Real talk, not texting. Sure, I wrote back. What time works for you? And for the first time, I didn't feel dread. I felt curiosity. Thursday at 6 p.m., her video call came through. I was halfway through a sandwich before class. She looked polished, like she'd spent too long preparing to seem casual. Hey, she started. You sound busy. Just eating dinner, I said. What's up? She hesitated, then softened her tone. I've been thinking about us a lot. This time apart. It's been hard. Has it? I took another bite, slow, deliberate. Of course. Haven't you been struggling? Struggling, I repeated. No, I've been managing. Managing. She said it like it was a foreign concept. That's it? You're just managing. What did you expect? I asked. You asked for space. I gave it. You wanted clarity. I'm finding mine. Her expression flickered. And what does that mean? It means, I said, I'm realizing how much easier it is to breathe when I'm not constantly worried about saying or doing the wrong thing. Silence. That's not fair, she said quietly. Isn't it? When's the last time I did something for myself without checking with you first? When's the last time I saw Mason without a guilt trip after? She crossed her arms. I never stopped you from seeing your friends. I almost laughed. You didn't have to stop me. You just made it miserable every time I did. Her voice cracked slightly. I thought this time apart would help us not make things worse. I don't think it made things worse, I said. I think it showed me what peace feels like. She blinked fast, holding back tears. So what? You're done just like that. I'm not saying anything final. You've still got a week and a half in Tokyo. Use it. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just whispered, because it sounds like you're already gone. I'm exactly where you left me, I said, just not waiting anymore. We ended the call. And for the first time, I didn't replay it in my head afterward. I just grabbed my keys and went to class. Friday afternoon, Mason called. Dude, you won't believe this, he said. Katie ran into Lena's friend Melissa. Apparently, your wife's been crying to her about how you've changed, and she's scared you're going to leave her. She said that, word for word. I laughed, a real deep laugh I hadn't heard from myself in years. What's funny? She wanted a pause, I said. She's getting one. She just didn't expect me to enjoy it. Mason whistled. So what now? Finish my project, hit the gym, maybe grab dinner with people who don't make me feel like a problem to solve. Man, Mason said, you sound good. I feel good, I admitted. Turns out 3 weeks without emotional landmines does wonders for your sanity. That weekend, Lena's messages started flooding in again, photos of Tokyo, long paragraphs about her day, about how exhausting the conference was. Each one seemed less like sharing and more like reminding me she still existed. I replied to all of them, polite, brief, detached. Each short response was another brick in the wall she'd built herself. She didn't realize it, but every message confirmed what I'd already learned. She didn't want connection. She wanted control. And control only works when someone plays along. I didn't. By Sunday night, she sent one more message. I can't wait to come home and talk. I miss you. I typed. Safe travels. Looking forward to hearing what you figured out. Then I put my phone face down, turned off the lights, and slept without dreams. Because for the first time, I wasn't the one wondering what went wrong. I was the one realizing what had finally gone right. By the time week 3 rolled around, I could feel the shift. It wasn't just in me, it was in her, too. The tone of her messages changed. At first, they'd been breezy, confident, full of photos and highlights. Now they came more often shorter, more nervous. Monday morning, my phone buzzed before sunrise. Didn't sleep much, just thinking about us. I read it, stared at the gray light coming through my blinds and typed, "Hope you get some rest." She replied instantly, "That's all you have to say." I didn't respond, because that was all there was to say. That night, I stayed late at the woodworking shop, sanding the surface of my cutting board until it felt smooth enough to catch light. There was something therapeutic about it, turning a rough, uneven thing into something steady and useful. When I got home, I saw 3 missed calls, 2 voicemails. First, "Hey, just calling to check in. Call me back." Second, "Evan, it's been hours. Are you ignoring me?" The same pattern as before. She was unraveling the space she'd asked for. So I texted, "Sorry, was in class. Everything okay?" Her reply came fast. "You're still doing that woodworking thing." "Yeah. Why?" "I just didn't think you'd stick with it." "I did. I wrote. I like it." No reply after that. Wednesday evening, she tried a video call again. I was driving home, so I let it go to voicemail. When I listened later, her tone was softer, almost pleading. "I just want to hear your voice. It feels weird that we're not talking much." It hit me then she didn't miss me. She missed the version of me that bent around her moods, the one who comforted her when she was unsure even if she was the reason for it. I didn't play that role anymore. Thursday, she finally caught me on a call. I was eating dinner before class when her face popped up on my screen. "Hey," she said, eyes scanning me. "You sound busy." "I am. Dinner before class. Still with the woodworking?" "Yep." She hesitated. "I've been thinking a lot, Evan. About us. About everything. This has been harder than I thought." "Has it?" I asked calmly. "Of course. Haven't you been struggling at all?" "Not really. I'm managing." "Managing." She said the word like it insulted her. "That's all you're just managing." "I'm not sure what you expect, Lena. You wanted space. I'm giving it. You wanted time to think. I'm using mine, too." Her voice grew tight. "You're being distant. Cold. I'm respecting your request. That's what this is, right?" She opened her mouth, closed it again, then said quietly, "I'm starting to wonder if you even care about this marriage." "I care about being in a marriage where both people want to be there." "Do you?" "I'm trying to figure that out." "Then figure it out," I said, leaning back. "You've got about a week left. Use it." She stared at me for a long moment. "It sounds like you're already gone." "I'm still here," I said, "just not waiting anymore." After the call ended, I sat there for a while. I wasn't angry, not even sad, just clear. Every conversation used to leave me second-guessing myself. Now they just confirmed what I already knew. Her version of love only worked if I stayed small enough to fit inside it. That night, I sanded the final edge of the cutting board and oiled the surface. The grain glowed under the light, warm, honest reel. I realized I hadn't built something just out of wood. I'd built proof. Proof that I could create something stable with my own hands. Friday afternoon, Mason called again. His voice was half serious, half amused. "You sitting down?" "Should I be?" Katie ran into Melissa. "Guess who's been crying her eyes out in Tokyo?" I sighed. "Let me guess, Lena." "Bingo. Apparently she told Melissa she's terrified you're going to leave her. She said, and I quote, 'He's changed. He's being cold and distant, and I don't know how to reach him.'" I actually laughed. "What's funny?" Mason asked. "She wanted a pause," I said. "She just didn't expect me to use it." He chuckled. "So what's next, Mr. Independent?" "Finish my project. Hit the gym. Maybe have dinner with people who don't make me apologize for being happy. Now that he said is the best revenge there is." Saturday morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The light was soft through the blinds. The house was quiet in the way it's supposed to be quiet. Peaceful. Not tense. I brewed coffee, toasted a bagel, and sat at the kitchen table looking at the finished cutting board. 3 weeks ago, Lena had sat across from me in this same spot and told me she needed space. Now she was the one struggling to breathe. My phone buzzed. "Flying back Monday. Need to talk in person. No question mark. No, is that okay? Just an announcement." I stared at the message for a while, then typed back, "Okay, safe flight." Then I put my phone down and went to the gym. That evening, I trained with Carter, a guy I'd met there, former military, straightforward, no-nonsense. Between sets, he noticed my expression. "You look like a man about to have an important conversation." "My wife's cutting her trip short," I said. "The one who wanted to pause our marriage." He smirked. "Interesting timing." "Yeah," I said, wiping sweat off my face. "I'm ready for it, though." He nodded. "Good. Just remember, people who need control don't handle losing it well." He was right. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Sunday night, I cleaned the house, not for her, but for me. I vacuumed, did the laundry, set out the cutting board on the coffee table. The place felt different now, simpler, calmer, mine. I went to bed early, slept straight through the night. When I woke up, I didn't feel dread, just clarity. Whatever Lena was coming home to, it wasn't the same man who'd stood in that kitchen 3 weeks ago. She had asked for a pause, and she was about to discover what happens when someone else finally presses play without her. Monday came faster than I expected. By noon, the house was spotless, not because Lena was coming home, but because I wanted a clean slate. I'd worked out, showered, finished oiling the cutting board I made. It sat on the coffee table, smooth and steady, a quiet symbol of everything I'd rebuilt while she was gone. Her flight landed at 2. She said she'd take an Uber straight home. At 3:15, I heard a car door slam outside, then the suitcase wheels scraping across the driveway. When she stepped through the door, it was like time paused for a second. She looked tired, smaller somehow, her hair shorter, her clothes new. She smiled faintly. "Hey," she said. "Welcome back," I replied evenly. "How was the flight?" She set her bags down, scanned the living room. It had changed. The gym equipment in the corner, the woodworking magazines, the missing clutter. "The house looks different," she said. "I've been keeping busy." She noticed the cutting board and picked it up. "You made this." "Finished it yesterday." Her fingers ran across the wood like she was testing its meaning. Then she put it down carefully and said, "We need to talk." "Sure," I said, sitting in the armchair. "You want coffee or water first?" She shook her head. "No, I made a mistake." I didn't say anything, just waited. "I thought time apart would help me figure things out," she continued. "But instead, it just made me realize what I have and what I could lose." I leaned back. 9 days ago, you said you needed 3 weeks to find clarity. What changed?" Her eyes dropped to her hands. "Melissa called me. She said she ran into Mason's girlfriend and that you seemed happy, that you were different." "Happy," I repeated. "That scared you." "It scared me," she admitted, voice cracking. "The idea of you moving on, of not needing me." "I don't need you," I said quietly. Her head snapped up. "What?" "I don't need you," I repeated. "That's what these 3 weeks taught me. I can function on my own. Better, actually." She blinked rapidly. "So that's it. You've made up your mind." "You asked for a pause," I said. "I gave you one. But pauses work both ways." She frowned. "I just wanted to make sure this marriage was what I wanted. And while you were in Tokyo doing that, I said I was here doing the same thing. Turns out I like the version of myself that doesn't need your permission to breathe." Tears filled her eyes. "So what now? You want a divorce?" "I want peace," I said simply. "And if that means divorce, yes." She stared at me, stunned. "You can't just throw away 6 years like this." "I'm not throwing anything away," I said. "I'm setting it down. There's a difference." Her voice trembled. "You're saying you were never happy." "I'm saying I've been pretending for years. Pretending that walking on eggshells was normal. That it was my job to make sure your mood stayed balanced. That's not marriage, Lena. That's survival." She started crying harder. "I thought this break would help us. I thought we could fix things." "You thought I'd be waiting," I said quietly. "You thought I'd be broken enough to make it easy for you to come back and take control again." "That's not true," she snapped. "Then tell me why you really came home early," I said. "And be honest." Her face flushed, because I realized I made a mistake. "Try again." Silence stretched between us. Finally, she whispered, "Because Melissa told me you looked lighter, that you didn't seem lost, that you might be moving on. So you came back," I said, "not because you missed me, but because you didn't like the idea of me being okay without you." She opened her mouth, closed it, then said, "I came back because I love you." "No," I said softly. "You came back because you love control." That hit her like a slap. She stepped back, shaking her head. "That's not fair." "It's fair," I said. "You've spent years deciding who I could see, what I could do, what counted as us time. You dressed it up as care. But care doesn't suffocate." She sat down on the couch, defeated. "What do you want from me, Evan?" "You want me to admit I was wrong. I want you to understand why I'm done." Her voice broke. "So this is it? You're serious about ending it?" I nodded slowly. "I met with a lawyer. Got our finances sorted. It's all ready if we go that route." "You already talked to a lawyer," she whispered, stunned. 2 weeks ago, I said. Not to hurt you, just to be prepared. She looked down at the folder I pulled from my desk and set on the table. She opened it with shaking hands, reading silently accounts property division notes. Her face shifted from anger to disbelief to something like acceptance. This is really happening, she murmured. It doesn't have to, I said. We could try counseling. But if we do, it has to be real. No more tests. No more manipulation. I wasn't manipulating you, she said quickly. I shook my head. You absolutely were. You wanted me to fall apart without you so you could feel important again. When I didn't, it terrified you. She wiped her face, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. What if I change? What if we start over? Start over from what I asked. From years of guilt trips. From you deciding when I'm allowed to have peace. Her silence was the answer. I sat back exhausted. These last few weeks showed me something important, Lena. They showed me who I am when I'm not constantly trying to be who you want me to be. And who are you, she whispered. Someone who deserves better than a marriage that needs to be paused. We sat in silence for a long minute. The cutting board between us glowed under the lamplight, a simple, solid thing I'd built with my own hands while she was gone. Finally, she stood. I'm staying at Katie's tonight, she said quietly. Maybe we both need time to process. Probably smart, I said. She gathered a few things and paused at the door just like she had 3 weeks earlier. But this time, everything was different. I really did miss you, she said softly. I believe you, I said, but missing someone and respecting them are two different things. She nodded, once eyes glistening, and left. The sound of the door closing wasn't sad. It was clean. Final. I sat back down, ran my hands across the smooth wood grain of the cutting board, and realized something. She'd wanted to pause our marriage to find clarity. Instead, she gave it to me. And now that I'd found it, I wasn't giving it back. The night she left again, I didn't chase her. I didn't replay the conversation. I didn't sit in the dark wondering if I'd made a mistake. I just breathed. For the first time in years, breathing didn't feel like work. The next few days were quiet. She called twice voicemails that drifted between angry, apologetic, and nostalgic. I didn't answer. By Friday, her last message came at midnight. I know you probably won't reply, but I need you to know I love you. I'm sorry that wasn't enough. I just hope you don't regret this. I deleted it without hesitation. Regret had already left the house. Friday morning, I drove downtown to Caldwell's office. The folder that had been a maybe was now a map. He slid the divorce papers across the desk, calm and steady. This is straightforward, he said. No kids, no shared property, mostly separate finances. If she doesn't contest, it'll be over in a few months. She'll contest, I said. Not because she wants me back, but because she hates not being in control. He gave a slow nod. Then stay calm. Let the process work. Don't take the bait. When I signed my name at the bottom, something inside me unclenched. It wasn't joy or relief exactly, more like the release of a muscle that had been tight for years. Outside, the afternoon air was bright and cold. I sat in my car for a while, just listening to the city hum. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined, but it was the ending that made sense. That night, Mason came over with pizza and beer, same as always. He took one look at me and said, "You look lighter." I feel lighter. Any regrets? I thought about it for a moment. Only one, that I didn't do it sooner. He grinned. That's the spirit. We ate, watched the game, laughed like we used to before everything got complicated. Halfway through the second quarter, my phone buzzed. A message from Lena. Can I come by tomorrow to get the rest of my things? I typed back. Sure, noon. I'll be here. Mason glanced over. You good with that? Yeah, I said. I'm ready to say goodbye properly. Saturday at noon, she arrived with Melissa to help her pack. I stayed in the living room, polite but detached, while they moved through the bedroom. The muffled sounds of zippers and boxes filled the house. When they were done, Melissa carried most of the bags out to the car, leaving Lena by the doorway again, right where all of this had started. This is really happening, she said softly. It is. I keep thinking I'll wake up and we'll still be married. We still are, I said, just not for much longer. You sound so calm about it. I am calm, because it's the right decision. She shook her head, half in disbelief, half in hurt. I'll never understand how you can just turn off your feelings like that. I didn't turn them off, I said. I just stopped letting them control me. She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked away. I hope someday you realize I really did love you. I believe that I said. But love without respect is just dependency. Her eyes filled with tears. She nodded once, then turned and left. Melissa gave me a sympathetic look before following her out. The sound of the car engine faded down the street. I closed the door, looked around the house empty now, but not lonely. For the first time in years, the silence felt like mine. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. Lena had contested for a while, asked for spousal support, despite making more than I did, tried to stretch things out. But in the end, the judge saw through it. 20 minutes in court, one signature, and 6 years of my life folded neatly into the past. When I walked out of the courthouse, I didn't feel broken. I felt new. The woodworking hobby turned into something more. I started selling cutting boards, small furniture, and handmade trays online. It wasn't much, but it paid for tools, classes, and peace of mind. Carter, the guy from the gym, became one of my closest friends. He introduced me to rock climbing, and somehow I was good at it. It became my way of staying grounded, ironic, I know. Mason and his girlfriend, Katie, started inviting me out again. Sometimes I went. Sometimes I didn't. The best part was that I could choose. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Lena at a coffee shop downtown. It was pure coincidence. She was sitting with some guy in a suit laughing at something on her phone. I almost walked past without saying anything, but she looked up and froze. "Evan." "Hey," I said, polite, steady. She stood brushing her hair back. "Wow, you look good." "Thanks, you too." "This is weird, huh?" "A little." "I heard you're doing woodworking now," she said, "selling stuff online." "Yeah, it's going well." "That's great," she said softly. "I'm glad you found something you enjoy." "Thanks." The man she was with glanced over curious. She noticed and smiled awkwardly. "I should get back," she said. "But I'm really happy for you, Evan. Genuinely." "I believe you," I said. "Take care, Lena." She nodded and walked away. I ordered my coffee, sat by the window, and watched people pass. The city felt different, warmer somehow, even in the cold. My phone buzzed, a text from Carter. "Climbing gym tonight." I smiled. "Absolutely." As I drove to meet him later, I thought about something Caldwell had said during our first meeting. Sometimes clarity isn't found in the answers, it's found in the quiet that comes after. He was right. Because Lena had wanted clarity, but what she really gave me was freedom. She'd asked to pause our marriage to see what life felt like without me. She never expected me to press play on a life without her. And once I did, I never looked back. Here's the next story. My name is Michael, 38 years old. Until a few months ago, people would have said I had a great life. Nice house, decent job, loving wife. The kind of setup that looks good on Christmas cards or social media posts, the smiling couple on the porch, the golden retriever in the background, the caption that says, "Just another beautiful day together." Except the truth was, it wasn't beautiful anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. Lauren and I had been married for 4 years. In the beginning, it felt easy. She was charming, spontaneous, full of life. I was quieter, more analytical and engineer by nature and personality. She brought color to my world, and I brought stability to hers. At least that's what I thought. But over time, the balance shifted. Somewhere between late nights at work, bills, and growing silence, we turned into two people who shared a mortgage, but not much else. I'd ask about her day. She'd shrug. She'd ask about mine, but her eyes would already be on her phone before I finished the first sentence. And then there was Ethan. Ethan was her best friend. That's what she called him every single time, with that rehearsed innocence people use when they know they're towing a line, but don't want to admit it. "He's like a brother to me," she said once. A brother who texted her at midnight. A brother who sent heart emojis. A brother who made her laugh in a way I hadn't seen in years. At first, I tried to play it cool. You know that thing men do, convincing themselves that jealousy is weakness. I told myself I trusted her. I told myself that their friendship was harmless, that I was being paranoid. I even met Ethan once. He was one of those guys who talks with his hands, always smiling, always overly friendly, the kind of man who knows exactly how to charm a room. He shook my hand too long. And when he said, "You're a lucky guy, Mike," he smiled at her, not me. That was the first red flag. I should have paid more attention to it. Over the months, their friendship grew into something that ate at the edges of our marriage like rust. It started with messages, then phone calls, then dinners that I apparently wasn't invited to because they were just catching up. Every time I asked about it, she'd sigh like I was accusing her of a crime. "Don't be insecure, Mike. You know Ethan. He's harmless." Harmless! Funny how that word always shows up right before someone gets hurt. I started noticing small things. Her smile changing when his name popped up on her phone. Her laughter sounding different, lighter like the version of her I hadn't seen in years. And maybe that's what hurt most. Not the idea that she might be cheating, but the realization that the best version of her no longer belonged to me. The distance between us grew quietly. We still had dinners, still exchanged good mornings, but everything felt mechanical. Her side of the bed got colder. Our conversations turned into logistical updates, bills, groceries, schedules. I'd look at her and think she's here, but she's already gone. One night I came home late from work. She was sitting at the kitchen table, laughing softly into her phone. She didn't notice me standing in the doorway. "Ethan, stop," she said between giggles, her voice soft and warm in a way it never was with me anymore. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds watching her, the woman I married, completely lost in someone else's world. Then I walked to the fridge, grabbed a drink, and she nearly jumped. "Oh, hey, you scared me." "Who were you talking to?" "Just Ethan. He had a rough day. I was cheering him up." "Cheering him up, right." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, counting every tick of the clock. Something inside me broke, not from anger, but from clarity. I realized I was no longer her husband. I was just the man financing her happiness with someone else. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She made coffee, hummed along to a pop song, kissed me on the cheek, like we were still the couple from our wedding photos. But I wasn't fooled. And that's when I started keeping notes. Dates, conversations, patterns. Not because I planned to confront her, but because I needed to understand how I ended up here. How a marriage that looked so perfect had turned into a slow, polite disaster. A few weeks later, the situation got worse. Every decision I made was suddenly wrong. Every opinion I had, Ethan apparently had a better one. "I think we should repaint the living room," I said. "Ethan says blue increases productivity," she replied. I wanted to laugh. Maybe Ethan could come over and paint it too. It reached a point where I couldn't open my mouth without hearing his name. Ethan this, Ethan that. He became the invisible third party in every conversation, the silent referee of my own marriage. By that point, I wasn't angry anymore. I was just exhausted. There's a special kind of pain in realizing that your presence doesn't matter. You could walk out the door and the air wouldn't even change. Then came the moment that sealed it for me. I was planning our 4th anniversary. I'd found a small cabin in the mountains, quiet, peaceful, no Wi-Fi, no distractions. I thought maybe if we disconnected from the world, we could reconnect with each other. When I showed her the picture, she frowned. "It looks rustic." "That's the idea," I said. "Just you and me. No noise, no screens." She hesitated, then smiled in that tight, polite way. "Ethan says cabins can feel depressing. He thinks we should go somewhere fun." I stared at her, and for the first time, I didn't see my wife. I saw someone else entirely, a stranger who took advice from another man about how to fix our marriage. The next day, she came to me holding her phone. "Ethan found this amazing resort on the coast," she said. "It's supposed to recharge your soul. I already booked it." My heart sank. Not because of the money. Not even because she ignored my plan. But because she didn't see what that meant. She didn't want to repair our marriage. She wanted a vacation with the illusion of happiness and Ethan's approval stamped on it. That was the moment I stopped trying. I smiled at her and said, "If that's what you want, sure." But inside, I'd already decided something far more permanent. That was the beginning of my quiet exit. The moment I realized some marriages don't end with shouting or slammed doors, they end with laughter in another man's voice. I didn't blow up. I didn't throw a scene. I didn't even raise my voice. That surprised me most. You grow up thinking the end of love is loud. Turns out it can be quiet like a door that closes gently but locks from the other side. After Lauren booked the ocean resort on Ethan's recommendation, I told her it sounded great. I matched her smile. I even forwarded the reservation email to my work calendar like a responsible husband. Inside, though, I started a different calendar one with tasks I didn't share. The first item was a name and a number from a coworker who'd gone through a rough divorce the year before. "He's surgical," my coworker said. No drama, just facts. Facts sounded good. I was tired of feelings. I met the attorney on a Tuesday afternoon in an office that smelled like coffee and toner. He was calm, the kind of calm I wanted for myself. He asked about dates, accounts, the house. "Purchased before the marriage," he asked. "Yes. Paid off. Title in your name only." "Yes." He made a small note, then looked up. "Good. That's separate property. We keep it that way. Tell me about your accounts." I told him everything. As he listened, I realized how much I'd been hiding from myself, how often I'd explained away the signs as if logic could rewind time. When I finished, he folded his hands. "Here's what I recommend," he said, and walked me through it. Preserve the house. Divert new income to a bank Lauren didn't know. Leave just enough in the joint account to avoid alarms. Document. And do not confront her until you're ready. If this is the direction you're going, you prepare first. When I left his office, the sky looked different. Same street, same traffic, same noise. But my steps felt steady, like I'd finally found ground that wouldn't tilt under me. The next morning, I opened a new bank account at a different institution. No paper statements, no automatic emails to our shared address. I set my payroll to direct deposit there, leaving the joint account on life support utilities, groceries, the normal hum of a house that still pretended to be a home. I kept all the digital confirmation PDFs in a folder with a boring name warranty receipts because hiding in plain sight is better than hiding poorly. At home, I was pleasant, helpful, predictable. It is amazing how invisible you can be when you stop asking for closeness. The silence felt less like punishment and more like insulation. When she talked about Ethan, I nodded and took mental notes. Not bitterness inventory. The resort trip came fast. It was beautiful, I'll admit that. White buildings stacked like blocks above a calm blue shoreline. Our room had a balcony with a view people write captions about. We ordered dinner outside that first night. She propped her phone on a folded napkin and took photos of her glass, the ocean, the sky. Every once in a while, she angled the camera toward me. "Smile," she said. I did. When she posted the photo, cropped the chair next to me, and mentioned Ethan in the caption. The next 4 days moved like a loop. Beach, photos, messages, laughter that didn't include me. I tried just once, to start a real conversation. I asked how she was feeling about us, about the future, about whether we could find our way back to the beginning if we wanted to. She looked at the sea, then at her phone. "We just need more fun in our lives, Mike." That's what Ethan says. I let the wave that line created roll over me, and when it receded, so did something else, whatever small hope had remained. I realized I didn't want to fight for space in my own marriage. The minute you have to campaign for basic respect, the election was lost months ago. On the plane home, she fell asleep with a soft smile, and her phone unlocked in her hand. I didn't read anything. I didn't need to. Knowing is heavier than proof sometimes. I stared out the window and planned the next step's copies of the mortgage file, photos of the house contents, a list of subscriptions and bills, logins written on paper and sealed in an envelope. I didn't want chaos later. I wanted clean lines. Back at the house, I built habits. Habits become systems, and systems survive emotion. Each Sunday night, I skimmed the joint account and left in just enough to look normal. Each Monday morning, I forwarded any bills to my private email. I created a spreadsheet, dates, payments, what changed, and when. I kept it simple, like a maintenance log for a building, because that's what marriage had become, maintenance without joy. The more I focused on the plan, the less I engaged in little arguments. When she teased me about being too serious, I let it pass. When she compared my taste in paint to Ethan's, I made a note to photograph the room for the inventory. When she came home late from group dinners, I asked if she wanted tea. She said no and smiled at her phone. I washed my cup and set it upside down on the rack. Quiet wins. At night, when the house was still, I'd stand in the doorway of the room we used as a home office and look at the shelves. I saw the possessions we'd acquired together and tried to divide them in my head. She liked that lamp. She'd want the rug. I didn't want to argue over small things later. I ordered a stack of flat boxes and slid them behind the coats in the hall closet. Knowing they were there steadied me. Not because I planned to use them yet, but because planning is sometimes the only relief you get when the present won't cooperate. A strange thing happened during those weeks I started sleeping. Not well, but honestly. No dreams, no long loops of what-ifs. Just a blank stretch of time that let my brain reset. I woke earlier, made coffee, and walked the dog before sunrise. The air felt cleaner. I wasn't happier exactly. I was clear. Clarity isn't dramatic, it's practical. You start making decisions not to win, but to stop losing. One afternoon, Lauren sent me a link to a dress she wanted to buy for a friend's wedding in 2 weeks. It's perfect for the venue, she texted, followed by a sparkle emoji. A second later, Ethan says it's classy. Looks nice, I replied. I meant it. I didn't have the energy for sarcasm. She bought it on the joint card. That night, I moved more recurring charges off that card and onto mine. Quiet adjustments, no alarms, no warnings. I told myself I was just balancing weight before a long trip. Another Thursday, she mentioned that the wedding would be a late one and asked if I'd mind driving separately because she planned to stay after for catching up. I said it was fine. She seemed relieved, like I'd saved her from an inconvenience instead of agreeing to be invisible for an evening. People hear what they want to hear when you give them silence. The Friday before the wedding, I called the attorney again. He answered on the second ring. "You'll have the paperwork by Monday," he said. "If you choose to file, we're ready." "Thank you," I said. The words felt like a handrail. Saturday morning, the house was bright. Lauren played music while she got ready, moving from mirror to mirror, holding up earrings, changing her mind, smiling at her reflection. She looked beautiful. I won't rewrite that. Beauty and kindness are not the same thing, but one doesn't cancel the other. In the living room, I ironed my shirt and watched dust float in the light like slow confetti. On the drive, she chatted about the venue, about friends she hadn't seen in years, about how good it would be to feel alive for a night. I said I hoped she had a great time. She squeezed my knee and said, "See, that's the spirit." Then she turned to check her hair in the window and laughed at a message that lit up her screen. At the hotel ballroom, everyone looked polished. The music was loud in that way that makes you talk with your mouth right next to someone's ear. Lauren found her group quickly, hugs, high voices, old memories. I went to the bar, got a drink, and introduced myself to a couple of distant acquaintances. I'm good at small talk. Engineers learn to translate their thoughts into simple sentences when the audience is impatient. Across the room, Ethan appeared. He wasn't a surprise. He never is. He leaned in when he spoke to her, used his hands too much, tried to look casual, but checked the room for reactions. I watched for a minute, then let my eyes drift. I'd promised myself I wasn't there to measure their chemistry or collect more proof. I was there to observe the last mile of a road I no longer intended to walk. Still, certain moments leave a mark. There was a point when someone asked Lauren if we were the newlyweds, and she laughed too loud, too bright. I couldn't hear the words from where I stood, but I saw the expressions. The half smiles, the sideways glances. It was like watching a joke that required you to make yourself small. I finished my drink and set the glass on a napkin perfectly centered. Alignment matters when you have so few things left you can control. Before midnight, I slipped my ring a quarter turn just to feel the weight of it. Not ready to take it off yet, but ready to know that I could. My phone buzzed, a calendar reminder I'd set the day I met the attorney if the line is crossed tonight act. I looked across the room at Lauren, lit by chandelier light, laughing with Ethan and two strangers who'd forget our names by tomorrow. Somewhere inside the noise and the music and the glitter of other people's big moments, I felt something steady click into place. Plans don't end pain, they end drift. I checked the time, put my phone away, and straightened my jacket. The night wasn't over yet, and neither was I. You'd think a marriage ends with shouting maybe a slammed door or a confession through tears. Mine ended with a laugh. Her laugh. It happened last Saturday night at a friend's wedding, the kind of fancy ballroom event where people try to look richer and happier than they are. Lauren looked stunning, silver dress champagne glass in hand, smiling like she hadn't smiled at me in years. Ethan was there, of course. He always was. They spotted each other across the room, and her face lit up like a switch. I could tell right then she didn't belong to me anymore. I stood near the bar pretending to listen to small talk, but my attention kept drifting to her. The way she leaned toward him when he spoke, the way he touched her elbow when he made her laugh, all those tiny gestures that say everything words don't. Then came the moment that finished us. Someone asked loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "Oh, are you two married?" Lauren laughed that high fake laugh I'd heard 1,000 times before. She said, "I'm married, but not to Ethan, unfortunately." And then she added, "Ethan's my best friend. Unlike my husband, he's not boring. I wish I'd married him instead of my idiot husband." The laughter that followed wasn't joyful. It was awkward, embarrassed, the kind people use when they don't want to pick sides. I didn't say a word, didn't move, just stared into my drink and watched the light from the chandelier flicker across the glass. That was it. No more questions. No more denial. The marriage wasn't cracked, it was gone. I looked at her, met her eyes across the room, and nodded once. She smiled, probably thinking I was being understanding. She couldn't have been more wrong. That nod meant message received. Then I set my glass down, turned, and walked out. No scene, no shouting, no goodbye. The night air outside was cold and clean. For the first time in months, I could breathe. By the time I got to the car, the anger had drained away, replaced by something quieter clarity. When I reached the hotel where we were staying, I stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. He looked calm, almost peaceful. I took off my wedding ring and set it on the dresser. It left a faint mark on my skin, a reminder of promises already broken. Then I packed my bag. Every movement careful, deliberate. No panic, no tears, just a man cleaning up after a long illusion. Before leaving, I opened my laptop and wrote a 2-word email to my lawyer, File it. His reply came a minute later, understood. Monday morning. Simple, clean, done. I turned off the lights, dropped the room key at the front desk, and walked out. The drive home was silent. No music, no thoughts, just peace. By the time I pulled into the driveway, it didn't feel like our house anymore. It was mine. Inside, the silence was different now. It wasn't heavy. It was mine again. I walked straight to the smart home control panel, opened the user settings, and deleted her profile. Access revoked. Then I went to the garage, changed the keypad code to something fitting 0000. That's how much patience I had left. Next, the finances. I sat at my desk, opened the joint account, and stared at the balance a few $1,000s. I transferred everything to my private account. Then I opened the credit card statement. The recent charges told a whole story. Designer dress for the wedding. Spa day for her and Ethan's sister. Girls' trip luggage. I didn't get angry. I just reported her card as stolen. Technically, I wasn't lying. Then came the hard part, her things. It's strange how quiet revenge can look. No yelling, no destruction. Just cardboard boxes and tape. I started with her closet. Shoes lined up like trophies dresses that hadn't been worn twice. Then the vanity, a graveyard of half-used lotions and candles named after emotions she never felt anymore. Everything went into boxes. Methodical. Unemotional. The home office came next. Her notebooks, photos, little reminders of our life, all packed away one by one. By 3 a.m., the house looked almost empty. For the first time in years, it felt calm. I sat on the couch, exhausted but steady. No regret, no sadness, just release. Before heading to bed, I typed one reminder into my phone, tomorrow closure, not confrontation. Then I slept deeply like a man who'd finally stopped pretending. Morning came with sunlight streaming through the blinds. My phone buzzed. Her name flashed across the screen. I let it ring, once then answered. "Hey, babe," she said cheerfully. "Did you forget your toothpaste again?" I didn't reply, just smiled at the irony. An hour later came the second call, panicked this time. Her card had been declined at the hotel. "Michael, what's going on? My card isn't working." I hung up. By noon, she was on the porch, sunglasses on, phone in hand, voice trembling. "Michael, the code's not working, let me in." I opened the door just enough for her to see me. I know I said calmly. "What do you mean, this isn't funny? It's not meant to be." I met her eyes. I heard what you said last night, Lauren, about wishing you'd married Ethan instead of your boring husband. So now you don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have a boring husband. You don't have his boring house either." She froze. "Michael, that was a joke. You're overreacting." "I'm not laughing," I said quietly. "Your things are packed in the garage. Movers will pick them up tomorrow. You have 1 month of storage prepaid. After that, you handle the rest." Her expression shifted from disbelief to panic. "You can't do this." "I already did." Then I closed the door. She shouted something voice cracking, but I didn't open it again. Instead, I walked upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and let the quiet settle. For the first time in years, there was no tension, no waiting for the next insult, no pretending things were fine, just peace. That afternoon, I blocked her number and Ethan's. That little gray blocked symbol felt like a seal on a long, painful chapter. I stood by the window and looked out at the yard. The sun hit the grass, the boxes were stacked neatly in the garage, and the house felt right. It wasn't victory. It wasn't revenge. It was something better clarity, the kind you only get when the noise finally stops. The morning after I locked Lauren out, I expected chaos, and she didn't disappoint. Her calls came every hour, first sweet, then furious, then desperate. By afternoon, she was crying. I didn't pick up. I didn't need to. Everything that needed to be said had already been spoken in that hotel ballroom. When I looked through the peephole, she was still outside pacing, holding her phone like a lifeline. A car idled at the curb, Ethan's car. He leaned against the hood like a hero in a bad movie, arms crossed, sunglasses on, pretending this was some grand injustice instead of a self-inflicted wound. They talked for a few minutes, gestures, frustration, tears, and then she tried the door again. Nothing. I watched quietly from upstairs. I wasn't hiding. I was documenting. Because people like Lauren and Ethan didn't lose gracefully. They rewrote history, and I needed evidence before their story reached anyone else's ears. When they finally left, I sat on the couch, opened my laptop, and checked the security feed. The cameras had captured everything: Lauren tugging at the handle, Ethan trying to force the door open, both of them yelling into the camera when it didn't work. It was almost theatrical. Later that day, the calls shifted from Lauren's number to unknown ones. Her mother, her sister, then voicemails filled with disappointment and guilt trips. "Michael, you can't just throw her out. She's devastated. She told us you lost control, that you were angry. What's happening to you?" I didn't respond. I knew their pattern: blame first, truth later. But still, something inside me wanted to make things clear. Not out of revenge, out of self-defense. That's when I remembered the wedding. Every modern wedding is a recording studio. Phones everywhere, everyone filming. If I wanted proof, it would be in someone's footage. So I started searching. I found the bride's younger cousin on social media, a teenager named Ellie who'd filmed half the night for her Instagram story. I sent her a polite message. "Hey Ellie, I'm putting together a little video montage for the bride and groom. Would you mind sending me the clips you took? I can edit them for you afterward." She replied in less than a minute, full of emojis. "OMG, yes, I filmed like everything, LOL. Sending now." A few minutes later, a link appeared in my inbox. Most of it was harmless dancing cake bad speeches. But then, halfway through a clip of the dance floor, I heard it. That voice. Lauren's voice. There she was, perfectly framed in the background, laughing with Ethan, as the woman in sequins asked the question again. "Oh, are you two married?" And Lauren's words followed clear as day. "I'm married, but not to Ethan, unfortunately. Unlike my husband, he's boring. I wish I'd married Ethan instead." Perfect audio. Perfect context. The universe had delivered me a gift wrapped in irony. I sat back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. Then I trimmed the clip down to 10 seconds, just enough. No commentary, no captions. The truth didn't need help. I drafted one group message. Not angry, not emotional, just factual. To the bridegroom, Lauren's parents, her sister, and most importantly, Ethan's girlfriend, June. Message. I know there's been a lot of confusion about what happened between me and Lauren. This short clip explains everything. No arguments, no exaggerations, just her words. Have a good day. I attached the video and hit send. Then I turned my phone on silent and went for a walk. By the time I got back, the storm had started. Missed calls, dozens of them. Messages ranging from, "We had no idea," to "Michael, I'm so sorry," to a long one from June that simply said, "Thank you for showing me who they really are." Apparently, she hadn't just watched the video, she'd posted it, publicly, tagging both Lauren and Ethan. It spread fast. Their little circle of friends saw it shared, it commented. There was no misunderstanding, no editing, no context that could save them. Just raw truth. Lauren called again that night, voice trembling. "Michael, please, can we talk? You ruined my life." "No," I said quietly. "You did that yourself. I just stopped covering for you." She tried to play the victim, but even her family didn't buy it anymore. Her parents saw the video and stopped defending her. Her father called me days later, voice heavy with shame. "I don't know what to say," he muttered. "We raised her better than this." I didn't respond. Some silences speak louder than words. In the weeks that followed, her world collapsed piece by piece. The bride and groom, the couple whose wedding she'd turned into a public embarrassment, cut ties completely. They even sent me a handwritten note apologizing for her behavior. Her parents withdrew financial support. Ethan's girlfriend left him and made sure everyone knew why. The two of them, once so smug, were now social outcasts. He lost clients at work after the clip circulated in the local group chat. She couldn't show her face without whispers following her. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. Watching justice unfold on its own was satisfaction enough. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. My lawyer said it was the smoothest case he'd handled all year. Apparently, when your spouse is caught on video publicly humiliating you, negotiations move quickly. Lauren didn't fight for the house or the accounts. She just wanted it to end. From what I heard, she moved into a small apartment with 3 roommates and took a job waiting tables. Ethan disappeared somewhere out of state after losing his position. Every so often, a mutual friend would message me with an update as if they were testing my reaction. "She's working double shifts now. She seems different." I'd reply with a simple line, "I wish her peace." And I meant it. Because the truth is, revenge isn't about destroying someone else's life. It's about reclaiming your own. I sold the house a few months later. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to start fresh. I bought a smaller condo downtown close to the river. Simple, quiet mine. Every morning I sit on the balcony with a cup of coffee and watch the city wake up. No more lies. No more laughter that cuts like glass. Just peace and the sound of traffic below. Sometimes I think about that night, the chandelier, the laughter, the way she looked when she realized the door wouldn't open. It doesn't hurt anymore. It just reminds me how important it is to choose peace over pride. She once called me boring. Maybe she was right. But boring built a life that lasted. Boring never lied. Boring learned how to sleep through the night. The truth didn't just end our marriage, it rebuilt me. And in the quiet of my new home, I've never felt more alive. 6 months passed. The papers were signed, the accounts separated, and the last box of memories was gone. What surprised me most wasn't how fast it all ended. It was how quiet life became afterward. No arguments, no guilt, no pretending. I used to think revenge would feel like fireworks, loud, blazing, unforgettable. But the real kind of revenge is much simpler. It's peace. It's waking up without that knot in your chest. It's realizing that silence can do what shouting never could. My mornings became rituals again. I'd wake before sunrise, brew a strong cup of coffee, and sit by the window in my new apartment downtown. From the balcony, the city stretched out like a map of second chances. Cars hummed below, people hurried to work. Life went on, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was part of it again. Sometimes I thought about Lauren. Not with anger. More like you'd think about a storm after it passes, grateful it's over, aware it left damage, but strangely thankful for the clarity it brought. She called once, months after the divorce. The number showed up unknown, but I knew the voice immediately. "Michael," she said softly, "I'm sorry. For everything." I listened, but said nothing. Not out of cruelty, but because I didn't have anything left to say. She filled the silence with broken phrases about how she'd lost her job, how friends stopped answering, how Ethan moved away without a goodbye. She sounded small, almost fragile. When she finally stopped talking, I said one sentence. "I hope you find peace, Lauren." Then I hung up. That was closure. Not the dramatic kind, not the cinematic explosion of emotions. Just a quiet truth. She no longer had power over me. The clip from the wedding still floated around social media for a while. A few people messaged me saying they'd seen it, expressing shock or pity. I never replied. I wasn't interested in being anyone's gossip. The story had already told itself. From what I heard later, Lauren moved back to her parents' town. She worked part-time at a cafe, saved what little she could, and kept to herself. Sometimes people whispered when she passed by, sometimes they didn't notice her at all. And maybe that was the hardest part for her, not the judgment, but the invisibility. As for Ethan, karma was quicker. His company dropped him quietly after his reputation tanked. One of his coworkers told me he'd moved out west trying to start over. Maybe he'd succeed, maybe not. Either way, it wasn't my concern. I learned something through all of it. Justice doesn't always need a courtroom. Sometimes it happens naturally in public, in private, or inside you. The truth is patient. It doesn't chase people, it waits for them to run into it. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I sold the house. I thought it would hurt, but it didn't. Walking through each empty room, I realized how much energy I'd spent keeping up appearances, dusting furniture for guests we never had, maintaining a space that never felt alive. I stood in the living room one last time, sunlight pouring through the blinds, and whispered, "Thank you for the lessons." Then I locked the door and left the keys on the counter. The next chapter was smaller but lighter. My new condo wasn't luxurious, but it was mine, paid for, peaceful and uncluttered. I bought new furniture one piece at a time. No matching sets, no fake perfection. Just comfort. On the first night there, I cooked dinner alone, ate by candlelight, and played a song I hadn't listened to in years. For the first time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. One evening, I got an email from my lawyer. Subject line: case closed. Inside a single line, the court processed the final decree today. You're officially free. I stared at those words for a long time. Free. Such a simple word for something so heavy. I closed the laptop, stepped out onto the balcony, and looked at the city lights. Each one felt like a small promise that life doesn't end with betrayal, it just shifts direction. Below, a couple walked by, laughing, hand in hand, carefree. For a second, I wondered if I'd ever want that again. Love. Trust. Risk. Maybe. But not now. Healing isn't about replacing someone, it's about remembering who you were before they broke you. I raised my coffee cup toward the skyline like a quiet toast. To peace, I whispered, to boring. Because Lauren once called me boring. She said it like it was an insult, like stability was a flaw. But boring built a home. Boring paid the bills. Boring stayed loyal. And when everything else collapsed, boring survived. These days, I embrace it. I go to work, come home, read a little, and sleep deeply. Some might call that dull. To me, it's paradise. Sometimes neighbors invite me out, and I go. I laugh easily now, genuine laughter, not the hollow kind that echoes across chandeliers. When people ask if I'm single, I just smile and say, happily. Because happiness isn't always shared. Sometimes it's solitary, quiet, steady. A few months later, I walked by a newsstand and caught a glimpse of a magazine headline, "When Love Turns Toxic, How to Let Go." I chuckled. If they'd asked, I could have written the article myself. Letting go isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning not to feed it. You stop replaying the moment they hurt you. You stop hoping they'll understand. You stop needing closure from the same person who shattered you. And one day, without realizing it, you wake up and it doesn't hurt anymore. It's just gone. Every now and then, I still drive past the old neighborhood. The trees look taller, the houses the same. I park for a minute, watch the streetlights flicker, then drive away. No nostalgia, no sadness, just gratitude that I made it out before the rot reached the foundation. Because that's what the marriage really was, a beautiful house built on cracks. And when the storm came, it didn't destroy me. It cleaned everything false away. Now life is simple. No grand revenge, no chaos. Just truth, peace, and space to breathe. Lauren once chased excitement. I chose calm, and calm, I've learned, always wins in the end. Epilogue. Quiet justice. People ask if I'd do it differently. I wouldn't. Not one step. I didn't need to scream, threaten, or humiliate her. I just told the truth and let it speak. The best revenge isn't loud. It's not cruel. It's living a life they can't touch anymore. And as I sip my coffee each morning watching the city glow, I know that's exactly what I've done. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.